Enterprise mobility. In today's digital economy, it's considered a strategic component of every business. Deploying mobile applications provides stronger productivity improvements and offers better customer service. Recent surveys suggest that 70% of organizations are currently implementing at least one mobile application, with more than a third of these companies deploying multiple applications. Greetings, everyone, and welcome from the Technology Association of Georgia. It's Tuesday, February the 16th, and this is Tech Talk. I'm your host, Frank Baia. On this edition of Tech Talk, mobile solutions, the increased speed for processing proposals and contracts, while the top-level management receives information in real time to make better decisions, improved efficiency, enhanced stability, and the ultimate disruptive technology competitive advantage. Up to the Tech Talk, Richard Makerson, managing partner of BlueFletch, a consulting firm focused on mobile solutions. Richard is a thought leader and experienced executive that has taken his firm to one of the leading in the industry, a leader in enterprise mobility with clients that include Coca-Cola, the Home Depot, JCPenney, and Haverly's. The insights and inside information from an industry-recognized trusted advisor and a creative force. Up to the Tech Talk, next generation mobile solutions, as we speak with top industry expert, co-founder, and managing partner of BlueFletch, Richard Makerson. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Richard, welcome to Tech Talk.
Hey, Frank. Glad to be here.
Well, there's a lot going on in the mobile space. Certainly the buzz as far as the Internet of Things just promises that literally or figuratively everything's going to be interconnected in some kind of mobile device, in some mobile situation, that everything from whether it's financial payments all the way through to health IT and even beyond that. Let's start with how you guys basically approach building innovative mobile solutions for enterprise. I mean, go into some of the strategy, the vision, and the culture. What would that be?
Great. I'd be happy to talk about that. Building mobile solutions for the enterprise is a bit tricky, and the reason we kind of fell into that niche is because years ago in the early 2000s, we delivered U.S. Postal's first mobile device release as part of Accenture. But being in that environment, innovating in a big enterprise with a lot of hierarchy, we wanted more control over our environment, our teammates, and then the type of projects and how we actually deliver them. So that's why we started BlueFletch in 2008. And so we culturally look to create an environment where it's fun to work. We have a lot of people that not only solve mobile problems on the job for a lot of Georgia's enterprise companies, but they'll go home and work on mobile projects as hobbies or with kids. And to your point, everything is becoming much smaller, much more powerful, being connected to the internet. So there's a lot of opportunity out here for a lot of these large corporations to take advantage of that. If you take warehousing, being able to put a mobile device in a worker's hands and have access to all the systems and information that worker would need, makes that worker much more valuable, but also much more efficient, saving time, saving money, and saving resources. So, we try to have a very fun environment. You can come to our office, bring your dog. We have access to software and other solutions, but when it comes time to deliver innovation, we want to take out any roadblocks or any impediments.
Well, obviously, a lot of the experience that the individuals have is the consumer to the enterprise. And so when we talk in terms of some of the services as far as mobility is concerned, that is more of an experiential kind of exchange as far as making sure it satisfies whatever the interest or the need of the consumer is. One of the parts I think that you guys go into, and I'd like to maybe delve into it a little bit more, is the concept of let's say, enterprise mobility. If I'm understanding where you really begin to develop some of the vertical down deep is dealing with internal management and internal processes within the organization and using mobile devices in order for that to happen?
Yes, I think you touched on it a bit where this mobile trend kind of happened outside of enterprise. So it was consumerized. When you think of Android, when you think of iPhone, and how popular that has been. But when you go into these enterprises, they want to get applications and get workers away from desk. So Home Depot is a very large client of ours, and if you think of the retail space, you want more of the store associates out of the back office and on the floors helping customers and providing an excellent experience. And so, you leverage technology to do that, whether it's, getting them from the back office and performing their task and being more available to giving them more information about product or even their customer so that, when I come in and, want to build a deck, maybe I can look at past purchases, look at a grill that I bought to, see if that might work out for my next project.
Well, a lot of the times, especially here on Tech Talk, we not only talk about the individual verticals. I mentioned fintech and health IT, internet security, CRM. It goes on and on. When one of the things that also is a overused term, I think, in fact, it's the term describing everything, is that it's disruptive. This is a disruptive technology. I'm going to assume that some of the processes are pretty efficient and understood by management, but then I'm thinking they have to be adapted by the culture, the environment itself. Is that sort of a disruption, and do you deal in not only how you can make something more mobile and more efficient, but also how it's received and used?
That's a good question. So I think one of the things that lends well is not just taking a website or a portal or an application and just throwing it on a mobile device, but actually, spend some time with that end user out in the field or on that sales floor and see the process and design the technology around that. That's one of the things that we've been able to do since we build custom solutions, and a lot of the work that we do is one-off. We can try not to be disruptive. So if we're in an environment where the age of the worker, typically might be older, we might take that into account for how we design and how we deliver that solution versus a younger work generation where you might be able to leverage some of the cool things that are happening with Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat. So it just really depends on the client and it depends on the end user. So,
well, let's discuss I mentioned some of the verticals. Obviously, the technology is sort of maybe the same, only different in terms of a lot of best practices, where a certain technology and a certain mobile capability kind of fits in a lot of different environments. But I'm going to guess from the other side, you face some pretty strong challenges when you're dealing with a diverse group of vertical markets. Kind of explore that for our listeners. Go into a little bit about, say, the biggest challenges that are faced by an enterprise mobility space that is across a diverse vertical market.
Sure. Each vertical presents their own challenges. One of the verticals that we don't play in as much would be healthcare, and that provides a lot of challenges because you're dealing with patient data. So there's a lot of security, there's a lot of regulation as far as how you can manipulate and present and who can see that data. So that provides a lot of challenges, and that's why there's not as many people playing in that space versus, let's say, payments. Although payments do provide challenges, and you have to worry about PCI compliance and how do you store and how do you make sure that you can have that trust that you're, being able to do a transaction. You still have a lot of startups in that space when you think about your Squares and your PayPals, and even, when you talk about disruptive markets, if you talk about an Uber, I have an app, they have my payment information, I can request a car with my mobile device, I could look at the driver come to me, and when the ride's over, I just get out. I don't have to worry about tip or, trying to find a car to swipe or find cash. And then you have other challenges that might present something interesting just from an environment standpoint. So if you think of warehouses and stores, especially if the store is, let's say, in New York or Chicago, you have to think about network congestion and a lot of people being in one small space. But something recently that I've been having to deal with is some challenges in the ag tech space. So being out in the middle of the farm or a cornfield and wanting to capture information and store it digitally, thinking about cell coverage and Wi-Fi space. So that's a lot of different verticals and a couple of examples of challenges in each.
Well, it's funny, Richard, we, as generalists, you have a tendency to underestimate something, and then as you progressively peel back the expertise from a thought leader, you start looking at nuances, and some of the things you're bringing up, you want to sit back and say, of course, you'd have to think of that. But, boy, I'll tell you, I'm sure that a lot of players go into that stumbling around in the dark and don't have the kind of experience that you guys have to say, hey, wait a minute, you need to be thinking about what's happening in the agri-field or what's happening in a congestion in a major city and those kind of issues that, you wouldn't even come to mind in what I would think a normal development of an app is concerned. Let's talk a little bit about the other side. When we talk about the verticals and the different kinds of marketplaces, let's talk now about a number of solutions that you can come up with, say from payments to sensors to wearables, those kind of things. How do you decide the right solution when you encounter a client?
Right. So I think a lot of that has to deal with the client, how their IT department is tooled, but then also the problem that they're trying to solve. So we're a pretty small shop, relatively speaking, to a lot of our competitors. So when we come in and we work with a client, we're really only trying to solve that problem and teach them the solution and leave it with them. So you could actually be talking to a retail client and wanting to solve payments, and as you mentioned, you could peel back the layers and realize, well, you have a pretty big network problem when you think about security and how do you segment guest Wi-Fi with a secure Wi-Fi that I can have payments go over. And so, now you have to tackle that problem first before you can move on to the next problem. So it really depends on just the client and the situation. We're pretty agnostic, and we have a great group of guys and girls here that, are, up to the challenge to solve a problem and deliver a solution that not only, moves the client forward, provides them an innovative solution, but it's something that was made tailored for them that they can support and was built for their team.
Well, I think built's a key word. I think that in a lot of cases, a less experienced or a less creative group is probably going to deal with something that they've, kind of one size fits all. And what you're saying is that not only do you consider the market, but you also consider the tools that would best implement the technology as you progressively develop the solution. And again, I think that's one of those things maybe it's pretty commonplace to you, but I think to some of our listeners are saying, my gosh, again, the dynamics, we say layers and tentacles, they're just seemingly endless. I'm going to throw one at you now as we close, but here's one, and I'm always interested when we're talking to the people who, I'll often say if you're going to sell technology, use technology, but I think one of the other aspects is that when you're dealing at the cutting edge and you're providing thought leadership to a lot of players who are just kind of discovering some of these abilities and technologies, you have another challenge, and that is you've got to change and you've got to deal with the evolution of what's happening within the technology industry, in this case the mobile technology industry. I guess my question is, how do you prepare for the future?
You have to love to learn. You have to be comfortable doing new things and exercising that muscle. I talk to my father about this all the time because he kind of finds it amazing how I can stay up on trends and constantly evolve where traditionally, you would think you would build a skill and do something for years and years and years. And I think just also being honest with yourself. So I've been delivering enterprise mobile solutions for the last decade, so I have a lot of battle scars and war stories to tell, but to be able to go into a client and, maybe we're not the right fit. This company might be able to do that better. I think, if you encompass those three things, loving to learn, always learning, tinkering, playing with new things, being comfortable, always evolving, and then kind of being honest with, the customer and what's going on and what's the right solution, things tend to work out in the end.
I think at the bottom line, when you're dealing with these disruptions, these changes, that a lot of you get a comfort level out of structure, sort of like talking as your dad, and I'm sure there's a lot of enterprise executives, regardless of age, fall into that same category. They feel safe within the environment that they're used to. So change becomes very, very challenging. And the only way out, the only way to move forward, is to have a relationship that you can really have confidence in and trust. And that's what it sounds like is something that is in your DNA almost. So it's as much about the creativity, as much about the technology and the talent, but I think it's also about the values and the way you approach your clients and your business. That's really impressive. There's no misunderstanding as to exactly why things are happening at your place and growing so fast, and the buzz has been so strong. Richard, I know you guys are busy. I really appreciate you taking time out of I'm sure, a pretty hectic schedule to join us for a few minutes today on Tech Talk.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for your time, and I really enjoyed this.